Hello, I'm Bruce Reynolds from Reynolds Communication. The following podcast is an initiative of the New South Wales Department of Primary Industries Dairy Group. I'm talking today with Trevor Mills, a dairy farmer from Drouin South in Victoria, about the adoption of automatic milking systems on his dairy farm. So, Trevor, tell us a little bit about your operation.
We run a family operation here with my wife and two younger children. We have a 122 hectare property, no irrigation or anything like that, just natural rainfall. We basically run a split calving system of approximately 30% autumn calvers and 70% spring calvers. In the past we've also run a lot of dairy export heifers. We've just got out of that in probably the last 12 months or so because the export business fell in a bit of a heap there for a while. But last year we peaked at 175 cows, which is probably a few more than what we've been milking through the traditional dairy for the last few years. This year we might happen to push up to about 200. We'll just wait and see what the season does and what the price of cattle are, because we buy in all our replacements here, don't rear any replacements on the farm at all, just buy in heifers on the point of calving. As a result of that, we run a mixed herd, mixture of Friesian and Friesian Jersey Cross cattle.
Now, with your automatic milking system, tell us the story about how you became involved, how long ago, and what you've actually introduced.
Only been up and running for about 15 months now. We went with the GEA Westphalia MI1 robot, which has been used quite extensively overseas for a few years now, but this was the first installation in Australia, so we were guinea pigs in regards to that. Yeah, I suppose why did we go down the AMS path? Basically, the dairy that we were milking in was a 15-unit herringbone, swing over herringbone, and it was a shed that was 50 years old, had been updated about 3 or 4 times in that period of time. And it just really reached the end of its useful life. Apart from that, it was getting too hard for me to milk the cows in that shed. As I was getting older, it was just the workload and the stress was taking too much of a toll on my health. So we just had to make the decision of what to do, whether to get out of dairying or go down this AMS path.
You've gone down the AMS path. How many boxes do you operate? And I think you mentioned just under 200 cows.
Yes, we peaked at 175 cows last year. We've got 3 boxes in the system. A little bit unique in that there's only one robot arm that operates the entire 3 boxes. It's a travelling arm which can operate, work on up to 5 boxes if you wish to go to that size.
So why did you go to the single arm rather than having an arm with each box?
How do I explain it? You're able to set up this robot system as a little bit like a herringbone setup, in that I could have the cows in the boxes and I was on the other side and I could see everything that was going on. So the cows, you had easy access to the cows, you had easy access to the robot and the workings of the boxes and everything. Cost-wise, I felt it was an efficient way to go, and you're only having to buy one robot arm, and if I ever wanted to expand in the future by adding another 2 boxes, that's all I had to buy was just the 2 boxes and but no additional arm.
From a milking point of view, though, are you able to do it reasonably efficiently with only the one arm but the 3 boxes?
Oh, yes. A lot of the time the arm's just sitting there doing nothing because there's 3 cows cupped up and being milked. There's no worries at all. Throughput with a robot, it varies with the time of year, the amount of milk that the cows are producing, but 60 cows per day per box is pretty reasonable to achieve.
From a benefit point of view, what have you noticed in moving across those 15 months ago to an AMS system from your traditional herringbone system?
Yeah, for a start, it was quite a challenge to move across from the conventional milking to the robot. It's an awful lot to learn. Obviously, we had to train the cows to go through all the automatic gates and the robots and everything like that. That probably took I suppose about 3 months to get the cows to go through reasonably smoothly. We only started off with a small number of cows, about 50 in the beginning. But as the months went by, and particularly after now 12, 15 months in operation, everything's running very smoothly, and it's revolutionised the amount of time that we have, or changed the way that our time is being used during the day. For example, I've been doing a little bit of fencing of late, and I've been able to be up the paddock at 5 o'clock in the evening doing fencing, not having to worry about racing back to milk cows. This evening my son has to go around to footy training, so I'll be able to take him around to that. So it's a way better system for milking cows.
How have you found, from a feed management point of view, to make sure that the cows move through the milking system and into the next paddock?
It hasn't been that difficult. I think one of the things you probably need to make sure of is that you have a farm that is reasonably set up reasonably well, with paddock layout, good laneways and such. It changes throughout the year, cow traffic, and depending on the weather. If the weather's good, the cows tend to traffic a lot better. If the weather is cold and wet, well, they don't traffic so well. But generally, I don't have too many issues. In the last couple of months, the cows have been coming in during the middle of the night and milking. I get up at 7:30 in the morning, and they're all milked and all down to the next paddock. It varies, but once you've got the herd trained, well, they generally traffic without too much trouble.
What about the introduction of your new heifers as they calve and come into production? As you said, you bring new stock on all the time. How difficult and how much of a challenge is it to train those young cows through the system?
It's not much of a challenge if you go about it the right way. It's probably best if you can to just put the heifers through the boxes before they calve, even if it's only for 3 or 4 days, just so that they, when they do calve and come in to be milked for the first time, they're not scared of the boxes, trying to escape and this type of thing. And generally, heifers or any new animals that you bring into the system settle down within probably 4 to 5 days. There's some that can take a little bit longer, maybe a couple of weeks, but it's no harder training the new cows and heifers to come into the AMS system than what it is for traditional dairy. If anything, I think it might be a little bit easier in some respects.
What about from a maintenance and operation point of view? Do you have to have a lot of extra skills that you wouldn't have had in the past to deal with this new technology and the robotic system?
You have to be reasonably computer literate. There is a lot of reports from the software that you can generate. It takes a while to learn how to generate those reports and how to understand them correctly. You don't want to be afraid of using a computer at all. You want to be prepared to watch and others and learn from them. It's just something that takes time. But it is a little bit like being put into the cockpit of an aircraft for a start and being given a user manual and say, here, fly it. It does take a while to, you make some mistakes along the way, but if you just take your time and don't expect too much in the beginning, well, you'll get there eventually.
One common discussion point with the systems, though, is that you seem to get inconvenient alarms throughout the night and early morning. Have you encountered that, and how have you been able to overcome it and manage it? In
the beginning, I had quite a few alarms, which were annoying in the middle of the night. There's nothing worse than being woken up from a deep sleep at 1 o'clock in the morning and having to go up and deal with a problem up at the robot. But as time's gone by, we've ironed out most of the issues that we had, and I rarely get an alarm now. Maybe a couple of months, something like that. And generally I can deal with it from my mobile phone. Often it's just a simple little problem like the cow hasn't walked out of the box quick enough and the gate can't close. And, if it's a serious problem and I haven't got time to go up to check what's going on, well, it's just a simple matter of just shutting down one box and allowing the other boxes to continue on until I can get up there. But more often than not, I can deal with the problem on my mobile phone and just reset the box and away it'll go again. In the early days, yes, there were certainly a lot of alarms going off then. and there was quite a few visits to the robot in the middle of the night. But now that I'm familiar with the system and the cows are familiar with the system, we rarely get a serious alarm these days.
Could you outline what a typical day is now in the running of your dairy?
Well, basically at the moment, I get up at about 7:30 in the morning, wander up to the dairy to just check that everything's going okay up there, do a bit of a clean up, change milk filters, just hose out the boxes and maybe the yard. That probably takes me 15 minutes or so. Check a few reports while I'm there as well. Make sure there's no new cows with mastitis or anything like that. Then I'll hop on the motorbike and go down the paddock, and if there's any stragglers down the paddock, I'll just hunt them out and they can start walking up the laneway. And while they're doing that, I'll just shift electric fences, go down, check on the dry cows, and then just come back to the dairy and just make sure all the cows that haven't been milked are in the yard. That's really about it for the morning. Then during the rest of the day, I'll just go on with normal tasks that need doing around the farm. Evening, generally around about 4 o'clock in the evening, I once again just go up to the dairy, just check on everything up there, do a bit more cleaning up and go and collect any straggler cows again and shift electric fences. So in the morning it probably takes, just depends how quickly I want to be, but if I'm in a hurry I can probably do everything within half an hour. But if I just dawdle along, it probably takes me about an hour. Similar at night time too. Often you just sit up there in the office just looking at a few reports or just watching the cows being milked. So that's the beauty of the system. There's no real pressure or stress most of the time with it. You can sit back and enjoy the cows being milked.
So you've outlined the benefit there of a lot more time to yourself and a lot more time to do other things. And you've had the opportunity to operate a traditional herringbone system, and now you've moved to an AMS system. So would you go back to a traditional herringbone system, or are you quite happy with what you've now got?
Oh, there's absolutely no way now I'd go back to herringbone or any other type of milking shed. Yeah, once you get through the first 12 months with an AMS, it's just heaven compared to the old way of milking cows. Now, I shouldn't say all the stress, but a lot of the stress has gone, and a lot of that tiredness has gone. Previously milking in the old herringbone, you were working on exhaustion, on adrenaline all the time. Now it's a lot more laid back, a lot easier.
What about from an output point of view? What have you noted with your cow's output compared to before you introduced the AMS system?
I have to admit the first 12 months was a challenge. Well, during the springtime last year, our milk production was probably similar to what it would have been in the herringbone. Once we hit the summer period and growth rates in the paddock started to slow down during the summer period, I ran into a few issues there because I've never made any silage or anything on this place for years, but I've come to realise that perhaps we do need to make silage in the future to feed those cows during the summer period. The main issue was that the first part of the herd was getting down to the paddock and eating all grass that was there available, and the last cows that got down there were getting nothing, so they ended up tending to dry themselves off. So there was a big learning experience there, but I can see my way past that this year, and already for the last few months our milk production has probably been pretty close to double what it was for the same time last year. So I don't have any worries about milk production in the future. There was a lot to learn in the first 12 months, but I can see a way forward from here, and I think our milk production can end up being a lot better than what it was in the conventional dairy. For
someone listening to this conversation and thinking about whether they should or shouldn't go into an AMS system, what would you say to those people?
You need to put a lot of thought into it. First off, I would suggest that people need to have a good look at their farm layout, because I know some AMS farmers, cow traffic is not too good, and I suspect part of the reason is because of the layout of the farm. Maybe gateways to and from paddocks are located in the wrong position. Maybe their laneways aren't up to scratch. Maybe the gateways are just all boggy, or they might have boggy sections on the laneways. You have to make everything right so the cow's happy to walk to and from the dairy. get serious about putting a robot in, I would suggest you don't try and adapt old dairies unless you happen to have a really big shed that's gives you plenty of space to work with. I think it would be much better for most people just to go onto a new greenfield site, new way of dairying, AMS. So I think it's probably best to start from scratch and plan it right from the beginning. You need to think about future expansion. That is probably one of the problems with AMS, is that especially if you're having to borrow money, you have to be very careful. I would suggest to a lot of people, if they're looking at borrowing a lot of money to put in AMS, for the simple reason there's very well-defined limits on how many cows they can milk per day. Unlike a rotary or herringbone, if you wish to milk more cows just because you want to work longer hours, well, you can. With AMS, that's not possible. So yes, there is quite a bit to think about. Keep an open mind. AMS milking is totally different to conventional milking. As I've said frequently in the past, I think you need to throw out the rule book. Once you go into AMS, you need to treat it as though you've never milked cows before. Just keep a total open mind to how you're going to do things. There's a lot of talk about frequency of milking with the AMS system. I say don't get too hung up about that. I think that is overrated. Provided your cows are coming in and getting milk somewhere around about 2 times a day, that's fine. Don't worry too much about getting them up to 2.5 or 3 times a day immediately. That may come later, but in the start, I don't think it's that important. There's a lot to think about, but do your research and talk to other farmers, and it does work, the system. So there's lots of different brands of robots out there. They all work. They've all got their good and their bad points. It's just a matter of deciding which is the best for you.
Trevor Mills from Drouin South in Victoria, thanks for talking to us today about your automatic milking system.
Okay, my pleasure, Bruce. I hope a lot of people can learn something from these podcasts.
For this podcast and many more podcasts, fact sheets and videos, I encourage you to visit the dairy section within the New South Wales Department of Primary Industries website.